shenanigans, truth, lies, shenanigans. Shenanigans, truth, lies, 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 shenanigans. Shenanigans, truth, lies, 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 shenanigans. Shenanigans, truth, lies, 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 shenanigans. Shenanigans, truth, lies, 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 shenanigans. Shenanigans, truth, lies, 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 shenanigans. Shenanigans, truth, lies, 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 shenanigans. Shenanigans. Truth, lies, 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 shenanigans. Shenanigans. Truth, lies, 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 shenanigans. Shenanigans. Truth, lies, 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 shenanigans. Shenanigans. Truth, lies, 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 shenanigans. Shenanigans. Truth, lies, 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 shenanigans.
Welcome to another episode of Truth, Lies, and Shenanigans. My name is Neo. Today we have Jam. We have Lizzie.
Hey, hello everyone. Happy Sunday. Hope you guys are safe and not too stressed, even though there's a lot to stress about.
All right, and back for more, we have Z.
Hi.
Welcome back,
Thanks
Z.
for having me
Good to
back.
have you back.
Welcome, Z. Welcome to the jungle.
All right.
Looking forward to it.
So what is Truth, Lies, and Shenanigans all about? We share our truth with you, call out all those lies, and point out the shenanigans going on. And we try to have some fun with some shenanigans of our own. We have a great show ahead. We're talking allies, cancel culture, coronavirus funding, Biden's VP candidates, and much
VB.
more. VB, VP,
ED.
VD candidates.
Definitely Biden. Definitely Biden.
And as always, we'll close it out with a fun game. All right. Should be a fun show. Remember, we insist on doing our show live because we want to talk with you, not just to you. So join in the conversation if you're watching on Facebook, YouTube. Leave comments in the comments section or hit us up on Twitter at TLS Live Show. Your comments and questions will display live on the screen. And we'll even call out a few good ones if we see some. And reminder, if you're in one of those Facebook watch parties, for us to actually see your comments, you have to leave the watch party and join the live feed directly. All
Come
right.
to the real party.
That's right. That's right.
Oh, sorry.
All right. So one rule. Jam, what's that rule?
There will be no cussing. If you cuss, you will have to wear a head wrap like Liz. I mean, you will pay $10 for every curse word that you drop. When you hit 3 curse words, that is 3 fingers like that, then you must pay tribute to the man. Is there
He wrote me
the
beautiful
voice of the
letters.
man?
And they're great letters. We fell in love.
Oh. Your co-host will compose a much maligned letter to this man. Well, maligned probably not, since you have to post it for 24 hours. That's what you get for cursing 3 times in one show, Liz. I mean, anyone.
Yeah, Liz
any of those.
got another one last week.
Where's your parrot, Liz? Because you're an excellent pirate. I'm just saying.
Z still has none. She's good so far. Z's good. Jam has none, surprisingly.
That's right. I'm an angel.
That's a lie. That's a lie.
Got a halo. All right. So let's ask our hosts a quick question. All right, so we can get to know them a little bit better. All right, and this is an interesting one. What is your absolute earliest memory, like when you were a toddler? Let's see who's ready. Jam, you have something? Let's start.
Yeah, I think my earliest memory is racing my dad down the block, but all I remember are his flip-flops and looking down at his feet. That's all I remember. I think that's my earliest memory.
Okay.
Like his flip-flops and being like, I'm going fast, but I wasn't really going fast.
All right, Lizzie.
So it's kind of like, not a happy memory, but I remember being a toddler and my mom being angry with me for something. And just as she's about to go in to like slap my face, I threw up at her.
Why are you smiling?
She's like, yeah.
It's cheesy.
Out my entire life.
All
Ready
right,
the
Z,
cannons.
what you got, Z? Earliest possible memory, Z.
Well, Lizzie, you'll like this one. I remember having a cat when I was a toddler, and I used to chase this cat around the house. And one day it went under my playpen, and I went after it, but my head was so big that it just got stuck under there. And I remember being stuck and thinking, this is it. I remember that.
Wow.
And my legs flailing. I remember that.
Wow.
Yeah.
How did
And
you
that
get
cat was
out?
watching. Oh, no. Like
How
my
did
family laughed at me for no, they laughed. I remember them laughing and then lifting the playpen. Like it was a mess. I remember.
But no issues related to that. No family issues.
No. I have no fear of playpens now. No.
You're always like a little extra Vaseline on the thing.
I'm always wondering if my head is too big, though. I will say that.
All right, so my earliest memory is I was with my great-grandmother, and she was eating some ice cream, and she decided to put the ice cream in her mouth, the spoon in her mouth first, and then give it to me, right? And it was vanilla ice cream. And I looked at the spoon, and there was little black things in the vanilla ice cream.
Flavor crystals.
I thought they came from her mouth.
Vanilla beans.
Yes, vanilla beans. I thought she put it in her mouth. To this day, I don't like eating after people because of that. And I couldn't have been more than like
That's a whole other topic.
two.
That could be a whole other topic of
Did
discussion.
you eat it though? Did you eat
I
it?
did. I think I did eat it. Well, she just,
Okay,
she kind of forced me to eat it. I mean,
Wait
I
a
was
minute.
like,
That's it. Your head's too big.
all right, that was good. All right, so we got any shout outs? Shout outs.
Shout out to Kevin. Woo!
What up, Kevin?
Thanks for letting me shout out, man.
Liz, what you got? Any shout outs?
I just want to send, like, I don't even call it a shout out, but I just want to say hello and love and hugs to everyone in Atlanta who's going through it right now. There's been another police shooting. The death of Rayshard Brooks in Atlanta is currently on fire. So please out to Atlanta. We're here with you people. We see you. We love you. Be safe.
All right, and Z, you got any shout outs?
Well, the last time I was on, I didn't understand what shout outs were, and my husband was mad at me that I didn't give his YouTube channel a shout out.
YouTube. What we
So
got?
check out Chef Brilski, Chef Jeff, Chewy Brilski on YouTube, I don't know.
Chef Brilski. All right.
Yeah,
that out,
Chewy
guys.
Brilski, Chewy Brilski.
All right, I'm going to give a shout out to my wife, Mel. So,
What's up, Mel?
that's all my shout outs
Shout out to
today.
Monique. What up, Monique? What up? What up? And Ty. Hey, thanks for watching the kid.
All right. I am going to start us off. So how the show works, each host comes up with a hot topic or several hot topics they want to discuss, mostly based on discussions with you guys online and what you want to talk about. I'll pick one of the hosts to start us off. They'll tell us what's going on, ask a question, and we'll just jump in and let the conversation flow. Once time is up, you'll see this.
Break it down,
All right.
break it down, break up.
And that'll let you know it's time to move on to the next host. And we'll talk about whatever they want. And remember, your comments and questions do help drive the conversation, so comment away. Today, I think I'm going to start with Jam.
Jam.
What you got?
Oh, Jam. All right. So I'm gonna throw out I'm a little financial, so I'm gonna start off with just I need y'all's thoughts on this.
Okay.
So y'all, everybody should have heard about the SBA loans that went out. So, as I understood it, there was a lot of talk about how things would be reported. There were several IGs who were supposed to be overwatching the situation, or at least one. He was let go. Turns out that Mnuchin let the Senate know that they would not be reporting who all the money went to. And this differs from what was originally reported when, all the paperwork where they were talking and getting everything rolled out. It also is different from what the SBA usually does when it releases all this information to the public.
Can you explain what an
I wanted
AG
to know-
is real quick?
Oh, IG, Inspector
IG.
General. The person who makes sure that you are not robbing from Peter, skipping Paul, and giving it to little Mary or somebody on the side. That's what the IG does. They keep it clean. So, but anyway, I want to get y'all's thoughts on the fact that we would not be hearing who the money actually went to.
I mean, the president still hasn't, shown us proof of his tax returns. So I think this is kind of par for the course. There are no checks and balances with this administration. There's no accountability at all. So I'm not surprised by this, not in the least.
The
I would like
corruption
to
is
say-
ridiculous.
I would like to say there are a lot of checks, Liz. There are a lot of checks.
But no balances.
Not so much
No
balance.
balances.
A lot of checks. I'm sorry. Go ahead, Mia.
Yeah, I was gonna say. I mean, it's what he does. I mean, I'm sure most of the millions of dollars are going to Trump organizations or Trump friends, and so why would they want you to know what happened to it? Or they're hiding. I mean, they're hiding something clearly. I mean, there is no transparency at all.
Cool.
Agreed. I agree with both of you. And I don't understand why we have to be so transparent on our taxes when,
Right.
apparently this is what's going on, with the big money, but yet they want to know about my little chump change. I think it's,
Right.
I think it's really ridiculous. I think it's really ridiculous.
My $2.
Minutia.
Paperboy doesn't
I
even
mean,
know my
Minutia looks like
saying.
a creep.
I'm saying, I'd be trying to, claim my dog as my child, trying to get those extra tax credits. They want to know all my business.
Oh yeah, and you'll
You
get
know what
all
I'm
the
saying?
you'll be put in
Can
jail.
I claim him?
It is the same
Can I
size.
claim?
Should be legal.
Can I claim him?
You take care of that cat. That cat is
Your cat.
he is dependent on you.
That cat is a lot of money, blood, sweat, and money has gone into that cat. Let me tell you. So
I'm
That's
sure
yeah.
it
right.
has.
Let me say, my dog eats the best food. So, that's money. And I should be able to claim that. So I don't appreciate that they can hide what they're doing with big money.
The
So
emotional
I'm
support.
still a renter in DC. Like I haven't bought any property yet here. I'm still a renter. Do you know they charge us $50 per month as a pet fee? So it's like, he's not getting a job.
Really?
He doesn't, but yeah,
He,
$50 a month as a fee.
$600 a year.
so
Yeah.
that's rent. That's housing costs.
Yeah.
He's a dependent.
Yes.
You need to call an
Yes.
accountant. We need to get on this. Get back our dollars.
Kevin would like to remind us that a thief never tells you what they steal. That is why you have the cops.
Ooh, true.
Oh.
But if you
Listen,
own-
I've already been yelled at by.
What is it? What does that mean if you own the cops? Then you have the cops.
I've already been called. I've already been reprimanded by one cop this
Claim
week,
Remy
so I'm
cat.
gonna.
All right. So we're good, Jam?
We're good. We're good to go. We're good to
All
go.
right.
Keep it moving.
Let's go. All right, so I'm going to jump in here. And for my first topic, I want to share with you a video of the murder of Rayshard Brooks in Atlanta on Friday. Little heavy to start.
Positive or negative for the presence of alcohol in the room?
Clearly.
I've been drinking.
Okay.
I do
I think we need
say
some volume.
but
All right, let me see what I can do.
I'm only going a few
Yeah.
minutes down the road.
I got you.
Ross.
I'm just asking, will you take a preliminary breath test for me?
I mean, I don't know what it is.
I just said it's a little handheld machine. Lets me know if it's positive or negative for the presence of alcohol. That's part of my investigation.
You know it is the presence.
So I've seen
I know.
the video.
Drinking.
I know, I can
The
tell.
volume. I can pretty
That's
much
just part of my
feel,
investigation.
But
It's
like I
just-
said,
listen,
if I have to park this car right here, right
So,
now,
Hold on,
and walk,
it's just a
after
yes or
he
no.
came out of his car,
we don't need to go back and forth about it. It's just a yes or no.
And he
but
is
what if
conversing.
I take this test and I don't care about? I can walk home. I don't have to park.
Why would-
Legit.
Why would you walk home?
I just don't want to be in violation of anybody. I can walk. My sister's house is right here.
Do you think that you'd be in?
This is shortly after.
Oh, shit. Damn. Fuck.
Oh my god.
Hey, bro, we got kids.
I was gonna say, do I hear a baby?
Yeah, there's kids in the
Yeah,
car.
you can hear the baby in the background. But the portion of the video that we missed in the beginning. So the police officer is asking him what he's doing out there, and asking him if he would take a breathalyzer test. And Rayshard, said to him, he was like, I've been drinking. I'll let you know that right now. I've been drinking.
Admitted to
That's
the
why
offense.
I was asleep in my car. And then he offers to walk home. He was just like, I don't want any trouble. I don't know why I need to take this test. I will walk home. My sister lives right there. And so it's a very calm conversation. At least in that moment, there was no tension from him. He wasn't being aggressive. He wasn't,
Law-abiding
jumping
black man.
out at the police officers or anything.
He
And
said,
so
I
my
don't want to have any problems.
He said, I don't want to have any problems. I don't want to be in violation of anything.
Yep.
And so my question was, what happened to serve and protect and de-escalation. We have seen numerous encounters between police officers and citizens who are drunk, inebriated, homeless people who need help. They offer to take them home. They offer to assist them to the second location.
Right.
Why wasn't that offer made here? Like, I just don't understand. If he didn't even want to get in the car, police officer, why can't you offer to walk him home? Walk with him. There was no crime being committed up until
Or
this
take
point.
his keys.
So
Yeah,
I was
I
actually trying to
mean,
go a slightly different direction with my question, but I agree with you on all those things, and still feel free to talk about them. I just want to let you know that they were arrested. Well, one of them was they weren't arrested. Sorry, one of them, the actual shooter, was fired, and the chief of police was asked to resign. But the actual question I have for you, Biden put out his VP candidates this weekend, I think it was shortly after this. And we have Elizabeth Warren, Susan Rice, Kamala Harris, Michelle Grisham, and Val Demings, but also the Atlanta mayor, Keisha Lance Bottoms. So my question actually is, and still feel free to talk about it, do we think she's going to make the next cut? Atlanta
no,
mayor?
No,
no.
no way.
Atlanta is on fire right now, and so unfortunately, even though it's not her fault, anything that happened can't directly be assigned to her, but it's bad PR. So
Okay.
I
But
don't
she's
think
late.
she, I don't think he would pick her at all at this point.
All right. Z? You said no. Everybody said no. All right. So feel
Yeah,
free to
no.
continue the discussion, Lizzie. But go ahead, Z. Sorry.
Can I just say, aside from the question, I just had like, my heart is pounding. I had not seen that video. I saw that it was coming up, and I saw the headlines, and I was like, no, not today. Not, and
Sorry.
maybe that's ignorant, but I couldn't. So I'm shaking, you know? And I'm thinking about an interaction I had on Facebook yesterday where somebody posted, when the next person wants to say, defund the police department, show them this. And it was a picture of like the Twin Towers burning on 9/11, right? And everyone was responding, oh yeah, let them call the police when they need it. Who's going to save them? And da da da. And I responded, and maybe I shouldn't have. Maybe I should have looked at who posted this and who was responding, because it was all one color, let's just say.
Mm-hmm.
But I said, I know this person, and I do agree. I don't want to see a dismantling of the police department, but I know one aspect that's always sat very wrong with me is that they're militarizing the police. Like, why do they have military grade weapons? They shouldn't have the resources, financial or otherwise, to get stuff like that, especially when our schools, need funding, our mental health services need funding. So I said that. I thought it was respectful. And all of a sudden, this angry, I'm going to say it, an angry white cop came at me like, oh, walk 31 years in my shoes, you internet warrior. Like, angry. And I'm like, okay, if you're this angry on the computer, how
Thank
are you
you.
if you saw a
Right.
person
Thank
in
you.
front of
Thank you.
It's a
Thank
culture.
like,
you.
damn, all I did was say something on Facebook, and I didn't even say dismantle the police. I was just like, yeah, don't dismantle, but da da da. And he came at me, and all I saw was angry white cop, and it scared the shit out of me. And I blocked him. Oh, I cursed.
Uh-oh.
I'm
Uh-oh.
sorry. I'm
$10.
sorry.
$10.
He called
I'm
himself on.
sorry. I'm sorry. I'm so passionate. I'm upset. I'm
That's good.
traumatized.
No, you have a right to be.
Absolutely.
And
No,
I
and
just say,
that was what I thought.
I mean,
the next
I
time,
think
can you tag me so I can jump in on your
Oh, yeah.
behalf?
Liz
Yeah,
But
will
feel
more
free.
tear them down.
But more importantly, so I was in New York City. I lived in New York City during 9/11. I am very passionate about what happened on 9/11. I just taught a class on Thursday to my students at the School New York Times on 9/11, and I had to caution them in the beginning. I'm probably going to cry after this video because this was such an awful, awful event in our country. So I take exception to people likening 9/11 to what's going on with the effort to rehabilitate the police department. Like one has absolutely nothing to do with the other.
Yeah.
So that in itself is offensive.
I think
Yes, it really was.
there are two things that. Yeah, okay. So there are two things that bug me about that. Like, first off, this is more of a general comment. If you take time to absorb or listen to what a lot of the heads of these departments, especially the unions, are saying right now, the one that I believe that stood out to me, I believe it's the St. Louis department. The guy came out originally and was and condemned the killing of George Floyd, but then came back a day or two later and was like, these thugs and whatever, and went on his ranting about Black Lives Matter, right? And like that's the sole engine of what's going on, and there's no understanding. And first off, these white police officers and even non-white police officers don't understand. The majority of us, I don't know about you guys, but I have family members who are military and or police. So when they say that dumb-sounded nonsense, they act like all of a sudden they exist in this bubble where they're better than anyone. 9/11 was traumatic for the whole country. 9/11 was traumatic not just for New York, but it was traumatic in D.C. When we were in D.C., I was at the Stadium Armory where my school was at the time where I was teaching, and I had gone out, and I can tell you not about any other day, but 9/11. And it directly affected me minorly, except for as a national issue. But there was so much there to grab that and own that as only your
Exactly.
trauma is trash.
Exactly.
All right.
But
Exactly.
yeah. Anyway, I'm
Okay. No good. We're gonna be still talking about this. A lot of our topics are covering the same thing.
Next time, girl. You
Yeah.
gotta tag me next time. I will be
Yeah,
there
oh,
for
yeah,
you.
I
Like,
will.
Lizzie will, yeah. She will take them down.
Gotcha.
All right, I just want to do some comments before we move on to Lizzie. Kevin says the unions are most corrupt. They're weak. Rupka says yes. And all of us, U.S. PTSD. Jeanette says, My Grandmother's Hands by Resma Manakem is deep about intergenerational racial trauma, special policing, needs to be required reading. Rupka also says totally incompetent cops. Ernest says he even offered to walk home. I mean, how else can you get out of
like
that?
I challenge people, just to extend this just a little bit, I challenge people to go online and look at, because there's several videos that have come out about in regard to the entire confrontation that happened before it got aggressive, before they felt the need to take him down and shoot. And this was a man who was pleading with them to allow him to leave the situation. He acknowledged that he was drunk. He
Yeah,
acknowledged that
admitted
he
to
might
it.
not have been doing the right thing, but he was like, I don't want to be an offense to anyone. Can I just walk to my sister's house? And there was nothing on behalf of the police department that acknowledged his goodwill in that moment.
Yep.
And so I'm just like, where are we? Where are we as a society that we go for a man saying, I am drunk. I am not of the right mind right now. I will walk it off to, okay, let's shoot him in the streets.
Yeah, that's the issue, and I think that is the base issue. I hate to say regardless of race, but as you look at this issue as police violence and brutality, it comes down to as simple as there are so many opportunities that we understand, I don't know, as regular society members, being a former teacher, being a human, there's so many ways, being a manager, being a whatever, to de-escalate a situation or not let it escalate. And instead, like the Dawn, they seem to always make that left turn to step up stuff to the point where they feel it has to be confrontational. It doesn't make sense in a lot of these regards to have something be like that. Like, it just does not have to climb that high. Anyway.
All right. So
Dance
Lizzie, let's move on to your next topic. What you got?
So my next topic is going to take it back to D.C. a little bit. We know that over a week ago, our D.C. Mayor, Muriel Bowser, she commissioned this mural downtown in Lafayette Square, right by the White House, for Black Lives Matter Plaza. Black Lives Matter Plaza. In addition to D.C., There have been it's now become a movement. There are other cities across the country that have started to put these murals downtown. We've seen it in North Carolina. We've seen it in Denver, Colorado. Yesterday in Brooklyn, New York. My goddaughter was out there with her fist pump up with the Black Lives Matter mural on the ground. So in DC, earlier this week, a group of activists decided that they were going to sue Muriel Bowser over this. Basically, they said in their lawsuit that the Black Lives Matter banner conveys that Black people are the favorite race of the city of Washington, D.C., which is, of course, a racist contention floated by a racist Democrat, meaning Muriel Bowser, who persistently refuses to think logically. My question to you all is this an offense? Is this an affront to everyone who is non-Black? Should non-Black people be offended by this mural?
So you're saying non-black people? Should non-black people be
Should they
offended?
be offended to the
I
point
don't
where
know.
we are suing?
It's a pretty subjective group you're asking. Just saying.
Oh
I
my
mean, you would
gosh.
hope that they would not offend it and would understand what it means. I mean, it feels like an opportunity to learn, you know? If, you're wondering why Black Lives Matter versus All Lives Matter, etc., ask. Try to figure it out. Understand it. Why? What is this Black Lives Matter movement? I mean, that's what I would like to see.
I know I'm thinking that this is that opportunity where the conservative and pro-Nazi / supremacist groups start grasping at stuff to start stripping away or attempt to strip away more civil rights of a city that has been predominantly African American, but also general civil rights of the same people who are pushing for lives. There's no other excuse for that response. There's nothing else that says except for a tone of racism. So I don't see the good in that. There's nothing they're trying to learn in that. That's not how you learn. That's how you get what you want and try to work it through a administration that's already supporting the opposite of that. So
I agree. G?
Well, I have a question before I give my opinion. Is it confirmed that taxpayer dollars were used to commission this work?
Oh, that's a good question. I don't know. Do you know, Lizzie?
Honestly, I would imagine so. Like, I don't think that there
I
was
think it
any
was.
private entity that was involved in this. But I mean, I don't drive a car, and my taxpayer dollars contribute to tons of things that involve streets and street signs and potholes.
No, yeah, I understand. But here, I don't want to be
No,
hated, but I'm
devil's
gonna
advocate. Go for it.
play the devil's advocate. If let's say I've dedicated my whole life, and I'm just using an example, I'm not comparing, so please don't, but let's say my whole life was dedicated to saving stuffed animals. Okay. Like, the ones that you throw away, seriously, the ones that lost a button, the eye, but it's my, I want to save these for kids who can't. No, listen, just listen to me. I'm here. But it's my thing, right? That's my thing. And I'm passionate about it, but there's no taxpayer money allocated to me getting any kind of platform, because that's a big platform. I mean, this is a major street in DC, right? No, so my whole thing is this, it's opening Pandora's box, because what's to stop the KKK from being like, well, we pay taxes, we want a sign too. I mean, so I do think she has a responsibility as a government servant to not play favorites. I think she did play favorites.
I would agree, but here's my only. I think if they did funding the way I would expect them to do, this probably fell under arts somehow. And so if it did, it's a matter of how they funded the arts project that did this.
Right.
And so I know it's separate from the Black Lives. I assumed it was separate from the Black Lives Matter, but that is a great question. I hadn't thought about the funding, but I would think that it would sort of go along those lines. But it's just so you know, the location is the street that leads right to the White House.
The White House, right? Yeah. But that's what I'm saying. That's major propaganda. That's a major platform.
That's all.
It shouldn't be It shouldn't be
But
funded by the government.
but the question, but you can also flip it to look at the sign that's in the backdrop of Neo and Jam, Black Lives Matter Plaza. There's also a sign not even 5 blocks away from me, right by NASA, that says Hidden Figures. Like it's in the same vein. I'm
No,
sorry,
I
Hidden
agree.
Figures. It's in the same vein. I think the difference is that these are signs or murals that are
But it
inspiring, that are encouraging, and not necessarily something that the KKK or white supremacists would be
but it is
putting out.
specifying a specific race, though. It is
Yeah.
calling out a specific race. To her point.
And also with street signs, don't those still have to go before like a city council before you can't just name a street whatever you want. So people voted on that. People,
Yeah.
like who had a say in this mural going on this street?
That's our time. Let's
I mean, I mean, who voted on Hidden Figures Way? Like, I'm
Yeah,
not
I
sure
don't. That's
how.
what I'm saying. I'm not sure.
I'm not sure how that works. But I mean, as we've seen, like it's a movement that's starting across America, and I don't necessarily think that the the excuse from the people who are suing her is necessarily valid,
hmm
um, because we have tons of things across the city that are race specific or that are culture specific. And it doesn't mean that we're excluding from other people. It means we are just celebrating this group of people.
Yep.
Right.
All right.
Yeah.
Let's move on to the next topic. The next one belongs to Z. Oh, sorry.
Come on,
Got you when you're
Z.
taking a drink.
Sorry.
Like, viewers,
It's just seltzer.
Sure it
this
is.
ain't seltzer, y'all. This ain't seltzer.
All right, let me
I
start the
didn't know it
timer.
was
Go
that
ahead.
kind of party. I
You're
didn't
up, Z.
know.
Go ahead.
Okay, which one are we doing first?
Allies?
Oh, okay. All right. So when I was first on this show, we had touched on the topic of allies. How can our white friends and neighbors be good allies to the Black community at this time? And then the more I thought about it, I was like, well, how can you just be a good ally, period? This is a good lesson for everybody. It's not just for white people, it's for all of us. So there's this TV show, I guess it's a documentary called We're Here. And it's these 3 drag queens, and they travel to middle America to, people who have called them to say, I want you to come to my small rural town in Louisiana and make me into a drag king or queen, because for whatever reason, and they have different reasons. And this particular subject, his name is Stacy. He is a Black heterosexual firefighter from Ruston, Louisiana. He said the population is 20,000 people. And he and he grew up there. He grew up there. So the community has accepted him just because he grew up there.
Right.
But he recognizes that it's a very conservative town. It's very religious. They don't accept much. They're not very welcoming to a lot of outsiders, to a lot of people, and that he can imagine just from being a Black man how a member of the LGBTQ community might feel trying to integrate into this particular community. So he asked the drag queens to come out and make him a drag king because he's like, I'm a tough guy. Everybody loves me in this town. And, if I see somebody getting bullied, just because of who they are, what they like, I'm not going to allow that to happen. So I want to show this community that I'm an ally. And he actually uses the word, so he knew what the word meant. I want to be an ally. I want to show them that, you're welcome here. So we can show the clip.
All right.
Before I pose the question.
By doing this, by me being an ally, I think it other people's eyes, to be an ally.
Work. What would you want for like a stage name?
Being that I have a unisex name, And Stacy.
I can't, in good faith, say that's not an exciting name because my name is Bob. So obviously, I can't be like Stacy's not exciting because Bob's not exciting.
How many people are you gonna meet that had a, you know, second thing, you know?
You want to keep your beard?
And I've been dreading that, even like just broaching it, because I mean, I finally grew a beard for the first time after growing up. Didn't even have facial hair, and then
Listen, I love bearded drag. I've never done it myself. So this would be actually really exciting to incorporate this.
I'm down. Whatever you come up with, you let me know.
It's going to get a little different. I mean, I feel like what Stacey is doing with this show is insanely important. He's a firefighter. He stands up for people. And if you are respected and you set an example and you do something for other people, then other people do it too.
I mean, I wear a pair of crease pants and cowboy boots daily, but bring it on.
That's a great clip.
So I think that guy is awesome. I think he's incredible. You know, just the fact that he had no fear of his masculinity being questioned in any way. He's just like, whatever, this is going to be fun. And if you ever get to catch the end of it, he was fierce. I gotta say, he looked so good. But, you know, so my question to you, he just showed an example of how you can be a good ally, you know? So, you know, what other ways can you think of that people can be a good ally?
Jam, why don't you start?
Oh, here you go. Catch me first. Why don't you just? I mean, I when all this started, I reached out to a friend of mine from college, and I was hot about. Not all this started with the drag queen stuff, but all this started with the Black Lives Matter stuff this time around. And I wrote him this letter, and I was like, "Hey, I'm feeling this way. I really want to reach out and talk about it just for a second." And he didn't get back to me. And he's a person I trusted. And there's still time for him to get back to me. I'm not like holding a grudge or anything, but I know that's how not to be an ally. So, like, just because, you know, and I know he has a worldly enough experience to understand where I'm coming from. He is white. And it reminds me of the divide between people's comfort level of what they're used to dealing with, and even with a friend. And then when you ask them to take that, I never considered that huge of a step, but you know, that step to that interaction where they have to definitively choose a side and say it and sort of commit to it. So I think that definition of an ally is what it is. Like Stacey does it in that video by clearly defining what he's going to do. I'm going to do this. So I think that's it.
Lizzie?
Two things. One, I think this highlights our conversation when you were with us last time, Z, and we pointed out Chris Cuomo and him saying that he doesn't like the term ally, and he went on this ridiculous rant about the semantics. And I'm just like, it's not really about what you call it. It's about people having your back, people recognizing injustice, recognizing that other folks.
Oh, no.
Keep it going. Go ahead.
Go ahead, Lizzie.
Recognizing that, you know, you have been wrong and expecting, you know, you to use goodwill and stand up and be in my corner for something. So I appreciate this video. I thought, like you said, I thought it was excellent. Excellent example of allies, where people from two totally different backgrounds working together for one common goal. In terms of actual allies or why people aren't necessarily acting out or speaking out as allies, I think sometimes folks are afraid to be an ally. They are afraid of a lot of times folks are afraid to be allies, especially public allies. Like they may be an ally when y'all talking on the phone, when you're emailing or texting or whatever behind the scenes. But when it comes to being visible, there's this certain fear that then the spotlight is going to be on them and then they're going to be judged. For me, like I've never once looked at something that I agreed with in terms of a cause and then like, okay, well, I'm not going to speak up because I'm afraid. I mean, it's
You
being an
know,
ally means being maybe accepting that you're going to be uncomfortable. But you have to also consider that the person that you are standing up for, is also uncomfortable. That's why it's an issue to begin with.
You want to
you
say
know, I
something?
wanted to bring up, it reminds me of a story that I read recently about Ella Fitzgerald and Marilyn Monroe. So when Ella Fitzgerald was coming up, white club owners would not allow her to sing in their clubs. And Marilyn Monroe heard this and said, absolutely not. She's a talent. She must be heard. So what I'm going to do as an ally, I'm going to share my platform with you by calling these white club owners up and saying, if you book Miss Ella Fitzgerald to perform, I will come and sit front row at every single show.
And
Okay. And
you
this
know
was
they
before
want
social media. Okay.
you know they wanted Miss Marilyn.
That's right. So she used her power. That's a perfect example of
That's what
her
an ally
using
is.
her power as a white woman, as a celebrity, all right, with a platform and sharing that to uplift, an African American woman, someone, to uplift a minority, period. So that to me was a great example of how you could be an ally. And she must have been scared. She had her own career to think about.
Yeah.
So, she stepped out of her comfort zone to do what was right.
Yep. I just want to say the cookie's on an automatic timer. It's not me doing it. Just want to say that.
Yeah.
You're a
So
lifer, too.
disrespectful. So disrespectful.
So,
I didn't appreciate that for you, Lizzie.
All right.
There's an ally who stands out to me, and I can't remember the full story, which is a shame, but it's Sammy Davis Jr. And when he went to, I was originally thinking about him in the Rat Pack, but that's not the actual ally. Once he had become affiliated with the Rat Pack, he rolled with them and did them. Like they had their thing going. But he was not considered a part of the black community and not accepted as such. And it wasn't, and I'm trying to remember the event, the civil rights event, or whether it was a funeral, I cannot remember, that he was invited to speak. And when he stepped on stage, one of the first things he said was, I know you guys don't expect me to be here, but I've been given, and the person who invited him there had invited him because he was a black voice, not necessarily because he was a voice that people were expecting to hear or wanted to hear, but because he had that, and to be that type of ally, to know and to have the support or go against the support of a group like that is the power of being an ally.
Yeah.
And to jump a little bit and tie this and look at this slightly different way, this has nothing to do with being an ally, which is important, but you reminded me of this. We were talking about the Comos. It's interesting to me, I just thought about this. We had the one Como brother, we were just talking about, he didn't like the word ally. The other Como brother was the one who just recently came out and said, Christopher Columbus, why is the statue coming down? And I just wanted to make a note of that, so we can put that to the side for a second, maybe revisit it later. But there's some Como energy we're going to have to address clearly in the future. So,
All right.
And
I just want to.
Neo, I think that might be my
You
other
never go
topic
against
that
the family.
I think the Christopher Columbus thing might have been my other topic.
That's
that I
what it
forgot
was,
about.
actually. You're right.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah.
So I just want to point out some comments online. I love Kevin Thaxton's comment. Just make sure it's an ally and not a savior. Ernest Cooper said earlier, support black businesses to be an ally. Support work of black people, protest and protect black people at protests. Stop and record cops every time they pull over a black person.
absolutely, yeah, very helpful. Shit.
All right.
Chips.
I'm going to...
I missed it.
I did too, actually.
Potty mouths on this show.
I got one.
You got one. Okay.
I got one.
All right. So it's my turn to go. So for my second topic, I'm actually going to set the timer and turn over the majority of my time back to Z to continue this conversation. But I'd like to kind of get my thoughts in. So I recently had a couple of white friends reach out to me in kind of a apologize for everything going on. I got to admit, it was a little weird at first, and I didn't know how to respond. But I felt like they were trying to be good allies. But it also felt more like a white guilt thing, right? It felt like they were saying, I'm sorry for being white. I'm sorry for white people. And I appreciated the gesture, but like afterwards, I got to say, it felt like I kind of had to coddle them, right? To be like, no, you're an okay white person, just to make them feel better about themselves. But I came across a blog post from this guy Scott Lloyd. He said, and it was titled "A Letter to Roy." A letter to Roy. He's the black guy in the picture, right? I just want to read just a little bit of it. So I got a little bit of time, so I'm gonna try to get through it quickly. All right. At the beginning, he reveals his friend joined the military and has since died. But in his letter, he says, "You came to my white church, you stayed in my white home, you ate at my white table, yet I never stayed at yours. An occasional visit to your world was all my whiteness could warrant, yet you were expected to live in mine. I was in your presence when the N-word was used on multiple occasions. I said nothing. You ignored it while others laughed at your expense. You were teased by folks in the church, mocking your blackness." Hold on, I'm going to pull up a picture real quick. Sorry. I meant to pull it up earlier. "We expected you to conform to our culture because we thought it superior. We saw ourselves as a savior your community needed, that you needed. We deceived you with pictures of a white Jesus and never told you the truth that he was black. Jesus was more like you than he was like us. Yet we pretended otherwise, because to do differently would have elevated you above us. And we couldn't have that. People shook my hand and patted me on the back. How good of you to befriend this black boy," they said, without even acknowledging you standing there. "My white world treated you as an anomaly, a novelty, tolerated only as long as you were obedient, subservient, and didn't try to date any of the white girls in our youth group." He continues, ironically, many white folks reading this that shared our history remember all of this differently. They will recall how kind we were to you, how we paid for your youth camps, bought you meals, had you in our home, and we were gracious enough to include you in all our activities, treated you like family, they will protest, refusing to reflect on the motivations of why we chose to do so, refusing to confront the arrogance of assuming that you should come to learn to us to learn, because we know you better than you. Because we know better than you. He says, "Roy, I'm sorry. I'm sorry I didn't know better. I'm sorry I didn't do better. I'm sorry that I'm just saying this years after your death. I'm listening now. I'm learning now. I'm speaking up now." So the reason I wanted to bring that up is because it made me realize that, some people need to learn, to grow up and learn. I don't think it's necessary to apologize for being black, especially if you tried to be a good friend. But these discussions are leading to a realization that didn't exist before, sort of an epiphany. So they're friends that send me messages. I get it, and I thank you for being an ally. I just wanted to share that. But so we've got some time. We got about 3 minutes. So go ahead, Z.
I think.
No, go ahead.
So real
Go
quick,
ahead, Jay.
I think that one of the things, just a real quick thought, this is not, as much as this is about friendship, it is, like we've spoken earlier, it's so much more than that. It's not that I need a friend at all. We have those. We all grew up. Whatever happened with that part of life happened. So, but what didn't happen is the acknowledgement that we're all still equal in this society, and that, like, we do need someone to take pictures and watch the police when they're interacting with us. Clearly, we do need someone to be proactive about us being seen, and that confusion and that understanding and conversations with people is part of what we're looking at, I think, as an ally. An ally to me is someone who is on your side. I don't have to know you, but you need to be looking out for me. That's clearly the space we're in. Sorry, Z, go ahead.
No, I just think that As much as it does feel like, they're kind of putting their guilt out onto, their Black friends, I also think it's kind of like, like alcoholism or drug addiction. Like, you can't fix the problem until you acknowledge the problem. So the fact that he's acknowledging it in depth, not just saying, oh, yeah, I can see it's not fair. No, he's giving clear-cut examples. He's thinking about interactions and why they were wrong. So that's a step,
When I was growing up, my family, I learned to be racist and homophobic from my family because, dating a white person was a horrible thing, or white people were bad, or, it's horrible to be gay, it's the wrong thing to do. But there came a time where I grew up. Oh, see? It's not me. It's not me.
This cookie is just wrong.
I'm actually gonna hold the rest of my comments for later. So let's go into the next one because I think we're gonna talk a little bit more about some other stuff. So let's move back to Lizzie. Actually, no, let's go to Jam.
All right, this one is real quick. Jay Farrow, you guys might recognize the name from Saturday Night Live. He's one of the comedians from there. He reported having LAPD kneel on his neck. And so what I did when I saw this, because I was like, I'm tired of this, and every now and then when I'm moving too fast, you think something might be some BS. So I did my research, and I was like, the security camera footage. He has the security camera footage.
You want to see
this
it?
happened to him.
You want to see it?
And so
I have it for you.
You got it?
Yep.
Hey, go ahead. You can play it. I mean, we've sort of...
Ahmaud Arbery. A week prior to that, I was actually on Ventura. I was exercising, and also keep in mind I got my Bose headphones on, no noise canceling, so I look to my left, the officer, I see him coming with guns blazing. I see him say, get on the ground, put your hands up like you're an airplane. 4 officers got their guns blazing. They tell me to get on the ground, spread my arms out. They put me in cuffs. The officer took his knee, put it on my neck. It wasn't as long as George Floyd, but I know how that feels. I said, why are you doing this? Like, what's wrong? They said, you fit the description of a black man in this area. A minute later, after I was detained, in cuffs, they come back, they say, we're sorry, we just got a call in that it's not you. I'm Jay Farrow, and I'm a black man in America, and my life matters. Black lives always matter. They always matter.
And so, I wanted to share this because it speaks for itself. The irony of this is, if you haven't had a chance to watch, or more of the irony of this, is there irony? The irony for the last 500 years? What? Is Dave Chappelle, in his recently released video, shares a story about how the officer who pulled him over the next day was the one who went and shot, I can't think of which person he killed.
Oh, it was in the Walmart. The guy in the Walmart.
That was yeah,
I forget
because
his name.
he's in Ohio. Yeah.
Yeah.
And come on, like, come on.
And Jam, you have a story to tell. I mean, you mentioned it before. You want to say it again?
I mean, there's not. I don't. I'm not famous, so there's not. So when I was home from college visiting, Mom sent me to the bank to get $20 out or so to probably go hang out with the crew. And when I went and parked the car and saw the cruiser go by, and I'm up in Silver Spring, right by where the donut spot used to be. And I see the cruiser go by, and I'm like, oh, let me put the quarter in. And me and the guy lock eyes, and I'm like, oh, I got you. You can't get me because I got my quarter, So I go in the bank, and when I come out, freeze, put your hands up. And I've only a few times seen a gun. I have only once had a gun pointed at me. And the officers were doing it because they were awesome. And they had the nerve to ask me, why do you look upset? and again, I mentioned before real quick, it's hard when you're literally a 15 minute walk from your house to know that on Georgia Avenue, you could be shot and killed and your neighbors would probably see. And the only reason you're going to be shot and killed is because some person felt like you were black and in the wrong place. Like, I got to put my hands up against the car, and they got to go through my wallet. Hey, where are you? I'm a college student. Where you? Second year. Why you look so upset? Mother, please. Really? Because I know you don't want to hear the real answer. You know I can't say the real answer. And so, anyway, as I get angry and diverted, this is there is so little value I see in listening to a lot of what the police unions have to say, because a lot of what they're saying is to protect themselves. Even their claims about 9/11, 9/11 and the sacrifice that was made then, the sacrifice they made was to protect others, to go get others. The sacrifice was not made so that they could continue doing all the corrupt and non-American things that they want to practice. Those are two separate, completely separate things. The barbarity they need to get out of their systems is for, I don't know, Zumba class. What it's not for is for me and the rest of the world to absorb. Like being a black male in America, like it really, like my dark-skinned daughters, I don't know what experiences you guys have had, and I hope they're not traumatic like that. But to me, if you're dark-skinned or light enough, and then you catch somebody on the wrong day, you're gonna get drawn on. And the thing I like, and this speaks a little bit to why I love living in DC. DC is the one state woohoo, that I feel most comfortable being able to be black, especially when I was young, and make a mistake, at least as a middle class person, and know that if the police were there, I'd be more likely to live. I've been stopped in Oregon, several places in Middle America, New York, North Carolina.
Virginia, North Carolina. The South is horrible.
I remember when I was in Oregon, to be clear with people who don't understand, the first thing I did when I was in Oregon, I did AmeriCorps. When I got my place, you know what I did? I took my phone downstairs, because I was in an apartment above the street, took my phone out of my pocket, downstairs. The first thing I did was I took my phone off the base. This was before cell phones were a thing, and I was right up the road of my apartment. Went out to the street with my government ID in my pocket, and looked like I was on the phone till the police came by, because it didn't take them but one drive-by to pull over and be like, "Who are you?" I knew exactly what they were gonna do, and I whipped out my government ID, and I was like, "I work for the man, so if you kill me, you're going to have to answer to the man." That was my sole intent. So I knew from my first day living there, the police would be less likely to mess with me. And as a side note, I saw an article about the county I used to live in, another small spot in Oregon. They were out waiting for Antifa to come down. They had heard a rumor they were coming down. And so the whole street, there's only one main street, how small the town is. And all these people are lined up with AKs on one side of the street. And the other side are like the minuscule number of demonstrators who are trying to accomplish diversity. And places like that don't understand that people aren't really against them, they're just trying to live their life. I have gone on long enough. Sorry, Gingy had to dance. I see my time to someone else.
Let me just add very quickly that it's not always in remote cities or remote areas in the country. Like, the only negative interactions that I've had with police officers has been in New York City, Midtown Manhattan. And I lived maybe 10 blocks away from the UN in Midtown, a very affluent white neighborhood. And every year for the UN General Assembly, there are streets cut off, there's a heavy police presence, especially at that time because George W. was the president. And so one day I'm walking from the gym to get to my apartment, and these two police officers stop me. There's tons of people on the street. I'm the only Black person that's walking down the street at that time. Like, yeah, I had my sweats on from the gym, but I also had my ID in my Prada bag. I looked the part. I looked no different from old girl who was walking from the gym behind me. But they stopped me, asked me for my identification. And you all know me. Like, I have a name. I stand up for myself. I am my biggest ally. And so this police officer and I, we exchanged words because I'm just like, you have no right to ask me for this. You're saying that, you want to, make sure that everyone is where they belong on this street. Well, how about you question all these other white folks who are out here? Because I can tell you, that guy over there, that guy over there, that guy over there, they don't live on this block. I live here. And when he stopped me, I was walking up the stairs to my building, key in hand, and they still stopped me. So it's one of those things where you question. You're like, but why is it that you think my skin is a threat? And Jam mentioned something about dark skin or whatever. Like, obviously, I'm not the darkest sister out
What are you
here.
talking about?
But I mean, I get looked at like everyone else. Maybe it's an afterthought to look at me differently, but I still get looked at differently. As soon as I open my mouth and I begin to speak, especially as an activist, then all of a sudden I'm a threat. I'm no longer, safe Elizabeth. I'm no longer articulate Elizabeth. I'm no longer a friend Elizabeth. It's like, oh, well, she is angry Black woman. And that's one of the monikers that under our, cloud of Blackness that all of us have to take on. Like, we're not allowed to have a bad day. If we're angry, we become a threat. And that's one of the things that just pisses me off so much about being in this skin. It's just like, we just can't be.
Yeah.
On a regular day, we just can't be.
Yep. All right. Let's move on to, it's actually two topics, but they're going to be kind of combined. All right. And actually, I'm changing the cookie to our timer. So at least you get a little alert before it comes, so you know it's coming. All right. So we're going to go to Z. Z, we're going to talk, you were going to talk cancel culture. Let's talk about it.
Cancel culture. Yay or nay? Okay. So I said I was going to try and bring a little of my bochinche reality TV garbage into this group. So here it is. Vanderpump Rules. It used to be one of my favorites, not so much anymore. So this is a Bravo reality TV show. It's been on for 8 seasons, and it follows the lives of 20 to 30-something-year-old waiters and bartenders who are trying to make it in Hollywood. The first season, it was a lot about that, but as they kind of became famous within this show, they stopped trying to look for stardom and just, amped up their antics on this show. So the two young ladies in the middle, the other thing is this cast is predominantly white. As a matter of fact, they only had one Black cast member, Faith Stowers, who I will come back to. And she was on season 4. She ended up having an affair with one of the show stars. And as revenge for that, the two young ladies in the center of this photo, Stassi Schroeder and Kristen Doty, proceeded to harass this young lady by calling the cops on her repeatedly, saying that she committed grand theft auto, theft, that she was drugging men in clubs, that they were in clubs watching her drug men to steal their money. And when the cops came back and said, listen, stop calling us, this is all incorrect, she's not a suspect, she hasn't done anything wrong, they started calling the military on her because she is in the National Guard. Oh. Yes, they called the military police to say, well, she's AWOL. They were after this girl. Now, if you know anything about the show, which you probably don't, sleeping around with each other's boyfriends is not new.
Yep.
It's normal.
I know that much.
They didn't, as a matter of fact, the girl in the middle, Kristen Doty, slept with the same guy while he was dating the blonde girl, and they're best friends. Oh. So they have already been through this. And nobody called the cops on Kristen Doty. They only used this tactic for this Black woman. Okay. So, long story short, they got, the story came up, and this story came up in 2018, and it was ignored. People were like, oh, it's whatever. And she's like, they called the cops on me, but it got buried away. It has now come back up with everything that's happening. And the backlash was swift. I mean, swift. The girl lost her publicist, her manager, her talent agency. She got her book got dropped. Her tour got dropped. She got dropped from the show. And those four guys, the two guys said racist things. The other girl, they all got dropped from the show, canceled. And the latest thing is that now she's coming out that she's pregnant. So she's like, you guys are canceling my whole life. My whole life is falling apart. Like, I said I was sorry and I'm going to learn. And this isn't helping. And I need that check because she just bought a $2 million house that she can't afford with her bad credit. So, so my question is cancel culture a yay or a nay? Is it, and how far is too far? Is there a too far?
Lizzie, go ahead.
Yay! Yay! Yay!
Yay! Okay.
I voted for it in the last election.
A similar story that has taken shape since this one came out is in regards to Meghan Markle's BFF, Jessica Mulroney. And so she has since been canceled. She has lost advertisers. She lost her job as a guest, host on GMA, Good Morning America. And it was pretty much similar to what you just described in this incident. So a young Black YouTuber, which Jessica Mulroney, she's also a YouTube influencer. A young Black YouTube influencer made a post about how more people need to speak out about what's going on in terms of Black Lives Matter, race relations, George Floyd. She didn't name any names. She wasn't very specific, but she said, a lot of you who have these huge platforms need to speak out. Jessica took it upon herself to assume that she was specifically talking to her and went on this public campaign to just degrade her, to out her. She threatened her. She threatened to call advertisers to say that this young lady is threatening me on social media. She is not nice. She's doing all of these things. So it was a clear instance of, okay, well, I'm going to, pull up my mean girl pants and come for you because I think that you were coming for me. I mean, it was a huge thing. And so once it got a lot of traction, once people started to see it for what it was, and because she had the attachment to Meghan Markle, that was her basic downfall, because people were like, okay, first of all, I can't believe you are shaming this young Black woman like this. But also, we really know you because you're Meghan Markle's BFF. And so, like I said, she lost a lot of advertisers for her show, for her business, because she does have a brand. She lost her gig. They announced this morning that she would no longer appear on Good Morning America. And so she, of course, did the, proverbial mea culpa, where she apologized and said she needs to pull away from social media and reflect on herself and what she's done wrong. And a friend of hers, she didn't name Meghan Markle, but she said a friend of hers, told her and alerted to her how a lot of her commentary and rhetoric could appear to be racist and threatening. I'm like, yeah, Megan pulled up and was like, biatch, what are you doing?
But there's a lot of examples of cancel culture, a lot of examples out there. I mean, why is it a yay for you?
Because I think if you are big and bad enough, especially if you have a public platform, if you are a celebrity, if you are someone who is out in the public sphere, and you bring negativity and hate and all of
I pulled up the wrong one. Maybe next time we'll get it right.
If you are in the public sphere and you are putting out all of these things to hate to mock people, to create friction and distance with everyone, then yeah, I think you should be canceled. I have no problem canceling people. And one of the things about cancel culture that people don't necessarily understand is that as a individual person, as a consumer, as someone who gets to decide where I spend my time and spend my money, I don't owe you a darn thing.
Okay.
Like, it's up to me. If I choose not to be involved with you, if I choose not to spend money on your business, that is my right.
All right, Jan.
And so, yeah.
But I mean, I think Liz was very eloquent about it. Like one of my favorite songs from back in the day, when I was young and sprightly, was Public Enemy. It shut them down. Like, I like Nike, but wait a minute. The neighborhoods are close, so put some money in it. So the deal is, I've been of the mindset that you can cancel anything you don't want to deal with. Like, there's one insurance company I got beef with still, and I will not do Oh, sorry. My point is, simply, I think cancel culture, there's a name for it, but it's always existed. But I think more importantly, there's so much power in being able to use the First Amendment. You can say whatever you want to say, fine, but don't act like I have to like it. I mean, that ain't part of the agreement. Shoot. Your breath is hot and funky. Your breath's hot and funky. I'm gonna tell you, your breath's hot and funky. don't speak over my way. Speak over that way. Don't go up on it. Like, anyway, that's all. I think cancel culture makes sense to me. Like,
I was gonna give my thoughts. So I disagree with both of you. I agree with some of what you're saying.
We gonna cancel you.
But yeah, I'm
Oh,
sure.
snap.
I'm sure I'll get canceled eventually.
you cancel.
I think canceling bad people is a good thing. But there are, so the way I see it, cancel culture is just a Band-Aid for a bigger problem. We can get rid of these people who are not doing well, or who say the wrong things or make mistakes, but are we really solving the actual problem? Because I think a lot of people are on the cusp of just learning. I was starting to say, when I grew up, my family taught me that interracial marriage was bad, that being gay was bad, and it took me growing up and learning that they were wrong, that is absolutely wrong. And so, something that I might have said or done 10 years ago, I even look back and say, that was idiotic. That was stupid. I made a mistake. And it's not the same person. I'm not the same person I was 10 years ago. I'm not. I've learned so much more since then, and I've changed my views drastically just in the last 10 years alone. Not to mention where I was in high school and where I was as a child. So I'm not saying that certain people, bad people who know what they're doing, who are we are all flawed. We're not perfect people. We didn't grow up perfect people. But right now, yeah, right. But right now, we're canceling people who make mistakes versus canceling people who are bad, evil people.
See,
But would they come down from those mistakes? Would they even acknowledge those mistakes if not for the fact that they were being canceled?
No,
I'm
going to add to that.
there could be punishments. There could be punishments, but ruining their lives. But there should be punishments.
It's not ruining. It's ruining their moments. It's not ruining their lives. It's ruining their moments.
What you got, Z?
Well, I was just going to say, I don't know if this makes a difference, but in this particular case, the blonde, Stassi Schroeder, this wasn't a one-time thing. She has made repeated public, problematic, racist. Yeah, like she's the one who had a problem with Oscars So White. She was like, why do those people always have to complain about not getting nominated enough? She said that those people, maybe your movies are just not that good. Like they're always why. Yeah, no, she's like, Asians don't complain and the Latinos don't come. So she's problematic. Okay. But then now to counter that, the two men that were canceled, they were canceled for racist tweets that they wrote years ago that just resurfaced. So that adds something else to this question, because it's one thing to cancel someone in the moment who has shown repeated problematic behavior. It's another thing to cancel someone who made a mistake 10 years ago when there's no evidence that they've since repeated that mistake or still feel that way, because also something that may have been acceptable 10 years ago may not be acceptable now or in 20 years. So should we be canceled for
Because
that?
they could cancel us for some of the comments we're making today, right now.
Right now.
Absolutely. But I think...
But you know what? I go into this platform or forum knowing that. And that was one of the things that
But you
I
don't know
said,
what the future holds.
but I know that, but in this moment, I know that it could come back to bite me. That was one of the things that I said to both you and Jam and our friend Avi, that the reason why I had reservations about this, being in a public platform, because I know I go off and I know that it could come back to haunt me. So that's why I'm very careful and selective about what I say.
But
Also
Liz, are you saying things, when you say things right now, are you saying things with evil intent? Are you saying things to hurt people? You're not doing that. That's not, the things you're saying are not intended to be evil, mean-hearted, mean-spirited. But 10 years from now, the same things that you're saying could mean something completely different.
But there's no.
To jump in between y'all's conversation real quick, I am concerned that you have defined evil, because I'm sure we agree on the definition of most of what evil is.
Lizzie might be evil once in a while.
Well, he wants to return adopted babies, so I don't know.
That's right. Calling me out. I think I'm gonna be canceled now. You're gonna cancel me.
Can I give you $2 for that baby? I put $2 on the haircut.
See, I might get canceled for that. But I had a legitimate reason for saying that, for the welfare of the child.
My concern is the same thing. It goes to what you're talking about. Like, we mostly agree on what our definition of evil is, but if we look at a larger group of people to cancel, there are groups that feel like Black Lives Matter has no business on the street of DC. There are groups that do. So from one perspective of a group, they're both probably evil, or some variation of that. And so that's why I'm all right with cancel culture. Because if you say it and you own it, it's yours. If you didn't mean to say it,
I just think it should be more targeted. Let's target it. Right now, it's hitting everybody.
I disavow I heard anything from you, Liz. I disavow I heard anything.
That's why it's hitting everyone. Everyone is coming out of the mouth sideways. And listen, let me tell you, as an educator,
who defines what's right and wrong?
I get paid to teach people. I don't have to teach people on my free time every day about what is appropriate, what isn't racist, what isn't sexist, what isn't misogynist. Like, come on.
You're defining those things. Hold on. I want to play Obama. I wasn't going to play it because we're running out of time, but I want to play it.
This idea of purity and you're never compromised and you're always politically woke and all that stuff. You should get over that quickly. The world is messy. There are ambiguities.
Yep.
People who do really good stuff have flaws. There is this sense sometimes of the way of me making change is to be as judgmental as possible about other people. And that's enough. Like if I tweet or hashtag about how you didn't do something right or used the wrong verb, or then I can sit back and feel pretty good about myself because, man, you see how woke I was? I called you out. That's not activism. That's not bringing about change.
That is completely different. That is completely different. It's completely different from the examples that Z gave, the examples that I gave, where there was a targeted effort to take someone down. Like, so I mean,
saying we need to target certain people. Right now, it's hitting everyone. I'm saying that's why we have to focus on. Maybe we have to, like Jam said, define what evil is.
I'm not saying define evil. I'm saying that everybody has a way of looking at the world, and the best way to interact with the world is to simply say, if I don't like you, I'm canceling you.
But you're
unless I
defining
feel-
right and wrong.
Yeah, for
Yeah,
myself.
by canceling someone, you're defining it.
Right.
But
But it's
one
your
again.
opinion. Not everyone has to subscribe to your opinions and your judgments.
You don't have to cancel them. But I have the right to cancel someone. Period.
Well, wait. Can I add one more thing? Well, wait. So that now the other problem is if we cancel someone too swiftly, where we don't allow them that
a chance to learn,
space or room to grow, right? Now we may actually effectively push them further into the other side.
Yeah,
so now people are speculating, right? So now people are speculating that Stassi Schroeder is going to become the next sweetheart of Fox News. You know.
But
she has a platform to do it.
But I think she was already there to begin with. Like, this is a woman who had depraved indifference for Black Lives Matter. She showed that repeatedly. So, and maybe she's not like the best example, but I'm not crying any tears for her.
Well, here I have an example for you. So, last week. Hold on, I just want to get this out. So last week we had a question from Pa Whelan. You remember Pa Whelan, right? And he suggested all lives matter, and then people jumped on him like immediately, right? But you know, I think the guy was genuine in his question, right? And so, but we would potentially, because he asked the question alone, people are so sensitive and so aggressive right now that he was going to be attacked. And that's why I jumped in and made sure we asked the question and handled it, because and then afterwards he learned from that, he got it, and he was thankful that we explained it to him.
But also, I think that is a bad example, because he was never accusatory. He was never pointing the finger. He was never coming
people
out.
Who are. Think the one that East talked about on Wednesday.
I think we're talking about the willingness to educate.
Context. You can't say East talked about it on Wednesday.
It's the guy from The Flash.
I still think
we're talking about. I don't even know who that guy was to begin with.
I think we're talking about the willingness.
People who have come out of their mouths pointing the finger using racist nouns, racist pronouns, racist adjectives. Like, I'm not giving you a second chance. Like, I just am not. I'm not. Like, I've got to, and maybe it's because of the culture, maybe it's because of where we are in 2020, maybe it's because I see these Black men being put down and killed and murdered, but I'm not giving you a free shot on that. I'm just not.
Yeah, I think I'm with Liz. I see cancel culture as an individual choice. But as we've discussed it, and everyone seems very spicy, let's read some of our commenters who are also really spicy about this and have been spicing while we've been arguing and doing stuff. I'll start from the bottom. Salai, canceling shouldn't be a knee-jerk reaction. You can take context, repeated behavior, and willingness to learn into your decision. Mayra, who also did not like the joke earlier about adoption, whether or not I know the joke you're talking about.
But you have to see the other episode. It was more to it.
No, we're not making fun of adopted babies.
No, Antonio was.
I did not. Stop.
Don't give him a pet gerbil or something. It's gone. Each individual defines what is right or wrong for them. Rebecca, wait. We should know prejudice. Racism and hate is wrong, whether it's 10 years, 20 years later. It will always be wrong. Anyway, just wanted to let y'all know we weren't alone in our energy.
We do need to move on, though. We're over time again. This one took a lot of time, actually. It took a lot more time.
2 hours?
No, we're not doing 2 hours. That's why we're ending it now. Liz, do you really want to do Spike Lee?
150.
It's up to you. If you really want to do it, we'll knock it out real quick.
We can knock it out real quick.
All
so our brother Spike. So he apologized for defending Woody Allen amidst this cancel thing. So this kind of speaks to what Z was talking about in terms of cancel culture. So Spike Lee, in talking about this week and talking about cancel culture, he decided to bring up his friend, and he made it a point to let us know that Woody Allen is his friend. he decided that he was going to defend him and put out there that Woody Allen has been a victim of cancel culture. So this was his initial comments on Woody Allen. He said, "I'd just like to say Woody Allen's a great, great filmmaker, and this cancel thing is just not Woody's. I think that when we look back on it, we're going to see that I don't know if it's just short of killing somebody, meaning cancel culture. I don't know if you just erase somebody like they never existed. So Woody's a friend of mine, a fellow Nick fan, so I know he's going through it right now." So Woody Allen, who used to be in a relationship with Mia Farrow back in the 80s and the 90s, he and Mia Farrow,
He fell in love with
Mia
somebody
Farrow,
else.
when they first started dating, she had adopted 7 children. There's that adopted thing again, Antonio.
Yeah.
She adopted 7
I
children.
love adopted kids.
That's what. Oh, see,
And then she adopted 7 children that he helped her raise, right? Then she adopted a young girl named Dylan. And then she and Woody had a biological child together, Rohan, who is now a writer for MSNBC. And so,
Wait a minute. You did not just say Rohan.
I'm sorry,
Whose name?
Ronan.
Because Rohan also had writers in Lord of the Rings. And I'm just saying.
Ronan Farrell, not Rohan, y'all. Ronan Farrell. But so early on, Dylan, the child that they adopted together, she maintained and she went to her mother, who then went to authorities and said that Woody Allen was sexually abusing her. That case went to the district attorney or whatever, and they decided not to press charges because they didn't have enough evidence. But the district attorney said he believed something happened, he just couldn't prove it. In addition to that, Mia Farrow had an older adopted child, Soon Yi. No one really knows the exact age of Soon Yi because she was basically an orphan on the street that Mia Farrow found. But Soon Yi was a part of the family. Woody Allen helped to raise Soon Yi at some point. Soon Yi was actually adopted by Mia Farrow's first husband. I believe his last name is Previn. I can't remember his first name. But at some point, Mia Farrow found naked pictures of Soon Yi that Woody Allen had been taking. And it turned out that he had been sleeping with his girlfriend's adopted child that he helped to raise. So that's why, and he eventually married her. They're still married to this day and have 2 adopted children of their own. But that's why over the years, people have worked or wanted to cancel Woody Allen because he's a creepy MFer. Like, not only does he have these sexual abuse allegations against him, he was sleeping with his girlfriend's adopted daughter that he helped to raise and then married her. So for Spike Lee to come out and be like, this cancel Woody thing, I don't agree with it. Like, come on, dude, really? So that's why he felt the need to apologize because, as social media is wont to do, it will gather you up and spit you out. Comments? Thoughts?
I don't really care about Woody Allen. That's my comment.
Oh God, he's so gross. That's what I think. That's my
He is pretty
comment.
gross.
But at the same time, in a court of law, right? You're innocent until found guilty, and he was not found guilty. Yes, he's a creep. He's disgusting. Don't go see his movies. But this is where the whole cancel culture thing comes into play because some people would look at it. Well, no, because some people would look at it like, okay, well, we don't know that Soon Yi is not of age. He wasn't her adopted daughter. It was completely inappropriate. Don't get me wrong. But this is where some people will look at evil a different way and say, but they're still married. Maybe it was true love. Why would we cancel him? There's no proof that he did. He wasn't, he wasn't convicted of anything. Unlike, R. Kelly, who...
Oh yeah.
I love Step in the Name of Love, but I feel bad.
I support canceling the hell out of R. Kelly. If there's any,
but
any
and I do too.
But
to me,
for the skin.
but that's just my.
if we're going to talk about R. Kelly, let's just be clear. Like the first album that he produced for Aaliyah was titled "Age Ain't Nothing But a Number."
I know.
That should have.
I know. I know.
That should have let us
But
know.
people
Right
were still dancing. People were still dancing to that stepping music. So, you know.
He and George Michael made very clear everything they felt from jump. We just didn't catch it, or we refused to see it. Not equating George Michael's behavior at all with R. Kelly's, but we knew George Michael was likely to be homosexual.
George Michael, what? What are you talking about with George Michael?
I talking about George Michael having to come out of the closet. I was just equating the fact that their secrets and stuff.
I'm saying those poom poom shorts. Those poom poom shorts told the whole story.
Because he was out
those
saying
poom poom shorts.
Boo-boos. He was out saying about his boo-boos.
Leave George Michael out of this. Leave George Michael out.
I love George Michael. I'm with Liz E on this one. Leave George Michael alone. I love me some George Michael.
He was.
I got faith.
He was the greatest American that ever lived. George Michael.
Oh, we're about to cancel Jam. Jam, you out of here talking about some George Michael. Jam is canceled. Out of here talking about some George Michael like that.
I was just equating that first album.
Where's Mike Winter?
Again, I was just equating that first album, the fact that people aren't always paying attention to what people are saying, and it's right there in their face. I mean,
sure.
That's all I was saying. But in terms of Spike Lee's opinion, I like Spike Lee. He has intelligent things to say sometimes, but I know Spike Lee is like, he's like that soda that you're supposed to drink maybe on a really celebratory day once a month or something. So you're not supposed to take. It's too much salt in that because Spike Lee just got extra stuff with him. And Woody Allen.
That was like epic.
We're doing that one. We're doing that one from now. Forget the little cookie. I like that one.
I thought that was
because you know it's coming.
Where's the floating Malcolm X?
All right.
Don't make me come for you, Kevin Thaxton, over some George Michael. I'm just putting it out there right now. I see your comments. Don't make me come for you. Don't make me come for you.
Don't be messing with Kevin Thaxton. We're going to cancel you for messing with Kevin Thaxton. All right, guys, we're gonna jump into our game. All right.
All right.
Are we ready for it? Let me pull it up.
I'm ready. What y'all got?
We got, let's see. The game is called Quick and Dirty.
Dirty.
Yep, the way it works, so the game will reveal a topic, and you'll have a few seconds to think about it, and then the game will display a letter, and then you have to yell a word or phrase starting with that letter that also fits the category. And if you do it...
It's going to be a mess.
Yeah, it's going to be lots of fun. You're going to like it. All right. So we're doing 10 topics. Whoever has the most at the end wins and gets the final word at the end of the show. In case of a tie, I'll be the tiebreaker and decide who gave the best answers. All right?
Who is Alex
All
Trebek?
right. So only the three of you guys are playing. I'm hosting. So let's do it. Let's start. All right. How you pass the time in quarantine. You ready?
Yeah.
Starting with the letter E. How you pass the time in quarantine? Eating. We're going with eating. Liz gets a point.
Education.
Oh, too late.
Education.
Too late. All right. Next. Things that happen in Vegas. You ready? K. Kissing. Oh, Lizzie.
Kinkies. Kinkies. My Wi-Fi is bad.
Mine's been canceled. My been canceled.
All right. Something you binge on. B.
Vegetables.
Vinegar.
All right. Vinegar.
Chips.
That's a good diet, Z. I like your diet.
I don't eat, so
You
yeah,
binging on vegetables.
par for the course over here.
All right.
Good chips.
Sexy occupation.
Oh Lord.
With a C. Sexy occupation.
A chef. A chef.
I'm waiting for other answers. We're going with chef.
I win.
Too late. I guess a chef is sexy.
That's right, it is.
I was waiting for some more answers.
I was like,
All right. Things that arouse women.
Chefs.
Clearly.
You ain't never lie.
S.
Sales.
Socks.
Sales and socks. No, I'm not accepting those. Somebody else. What else?
What do you mean? Wait, no, you gotta choose. That's the time. You gotta choose.
I will never turn down a good sale. Okay, I will always say yes. I will always be ready for a good sale.
Socks.
She said it first, so we're going with sales.
Striped socks.
She's actually pretty right. Actually, she's right. Now that I think about it.
All right.
That's right.
Things that make men limp. We can do that two ways. R. Things that make men limp. Come on.
Running. I don't know.
Rogaine.
Oh, actually, probably right. Probably right about the Rogaine. Who knows?
That or rum.
All right, Jam gets a point. Place we should invade.
Oh, easy. Come on with it.
Oh, call girl. Good one.
P.
Panama.
Pennsylvania.
I don't know.
Who said Panama?
Me.
Pennsylvania. She said Panama first. Why should we be invading Panama?
We already did that.
Listen, I'm from there. I wanted to come back. I wanted to be part of the U.S. I don't know.
All right.
Already.
She beat you by a quarter of a second. All right, so Z gets that. Z gets that point. All right. Something you lick.
Here we go again with this one.
Kitty.
D.
No.
She said it. She said it.
Canceled.
She said it. All right.
I thought I said it first.
I don't know. Did you? I missed it. We should do
I
replay.
said it first. I did not want to say it, but I said it first.
I said it.
I don't know who said it first. I heard Liz better. We're going with Liz.
Dropping those truth bombs.
Okay, you claim it.
You gave it to Jam?
Jeffrey said Pennsylvania Avenue.
I said it. Shit.
I said it.
Isn't that a,
That's two.
Are you ready?
That was another one.
I heard it too.
Yeah, he cursed.
I heard it.
He cursed.
She called
He
Uno
He
on you.
cursed. That's number two.
She called you out. I heard it.
Jam, that's you.
That's a point. That's $20.
I specifically said she. That is one of my favorite words.
Sure you did. Sure you did.
Because The Wire is an awesome
I'm really
show.
gonna have to set up this replay.
You need to go lick that D.
Here's the T you dropped.
TV show and movie. TV show and movie.
No, your Wi-Fi dropped that.
C. TV show and movie. T.
Transformers.
Transformers. That's a winner.
That's A.
The A-Team. What?
She beat you to it.
She did not. I started the first. Yo,
Well, I'm gonna tell you what came to my ear was hers first.
Articles don't count. Articles do not count. V, come on.
Wait.
She said Transformers. Oh yeah, that's right.
I said Transformers.
Wait
Yeah.
All right, this is the last one. The last one. You ready?
You just made up rules. I'm hurt. I'm cut deep.
Something you drink. Looks like Z's running away with this one.
Because you denied me a point.
And you took my articles away. Liz isn't even a judge.
Jay,
Juice.
All right, Lizzie, Jam's in last place. We're just fighting for last place anyway. Good job, guys. That was fun.
Good game. Good game.
All right, that was a lot of fun. I enjoyed that game. I enjoyed that.
I was cheated. No allies here. None of your allies.
All right, that's all the time we got. We ran over time again, but before we close out, let's get in some last minute shout outs. Anybody want to call out, Jim?
All right, I'd like to thank Jeff Brilski, Kevin again.
That's the chef.
Chef Brilski.
Oh,
yeah.
Chef Brilski. That's the chef.
Love me some Jeff.
Shalai, Rebecca, Mayra, Ernest. Thanks for showing up, guys. What do we got? Monica. Appreciate y'all being here so much. Thank you, Jocelyn.
Love you too, Kevin. We love you too. All right. So
appreciate it.
And I want to shout out everybody that's going to watch this YouTube because I'm going to send it to everybody once you put it up.
That's right.
Word.
All right. All right.
Z with the promotion. Z with the promotion.
She's awesome. All right. I'd like to thank all of you guys for joining us. We hope you had a good time, maybe gained a new perspective, learned something. Don't forget to like, follow, subscribe at TLS Live Show, www.tlslive.show. We love seeing you, all the great discussions. We'll see you now Wednesday, 8 p.m. We'll have a guest host. Dee will be joining us. She'll be talking about the future of schools resource officers. Liz will be there along with East and myself. All right. So the winner of the game tonight is Z. So Z, you get the last word.
Z crushed it.
Last word would be careful what you say today because you don't know what it's going to mean for you tomorrow.
Word.
Totally got to be worried about that.
In the Bahamas invasion from Kevin. Thank you, Kevin.
Have a great weekend, guys. Enjoy the rest of your Sunday.
Shenanigans. Truth, lies, shenanigans. Truth, lies, shenanigans. Truth,